Hello, welcome to Pillar and Post. I'm Mark Coffey and I'm joined today by veteran analyst Cian Tooney and popping his Pillar and Post cherry, it's James Hall. So how's it going, lads?
How's it going, Coff?
We also picked a wonderful day to have this video posted. There's no other major sporting events going on Thursday. Okay, so for New Zealand-England, finished 20-15 to New Zealand. Cruden scoring 5 penalties, Conrad Smith scoring a try, and Byrne and Cipriani scoring the penalties for England. So it was a very close match. There were a good few mistakes. Was it a competitive match because the England performance was really good, or was it because of the New Zealand mistakes?
I think it was a bit of both. Lancaster, you're never going to get a bad performance out of England as long as Lancaster's there. Everyone is going to come out and play for the jersey. Before the game, they were all talking it was a weakened team, but still, you knew the Lancaster way, England were going to come out. But then, New Zealand were quite poor. They're very rusty. When you associate with New Zealand, they're mistake free.
Making mistakes, you never see that.
Their set piece always ticks really well, but even when Bowden Barrett comes on, in the past when he's come on in Tri-Nation or Rugby Championship games, he's scored tries. He came on and started dropping balls. They were dropping balls left, right, and centre. So I'd say it was a bit of both.
Yeah, New Zealand inaccuracies led England into the game, and then obviously England are accurate enough to be able to just play play the 80 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Cipriani came on in the last 10 minutes. Burns played very well in the first half, started making a few mistakes in the second half. Do you think it would have made a difference if Cipriani was brought on earlier on in the match?
I don't think so. I don't think he would have changed the game enough. I think the players, Cipriani and Burns, are probably quite similar in that they like to bring the ball to the line, and although he made a line break himself, I think either way New Zealand would probably grow as the game went on and kind of close it out rather than England build more and score. So.
I'd say it was the perfect time because Freddie Burns, I think, was starting a few mistakes were starting to creep in here and there. So I'd say the timing was perfect to bring on Cipriani. He did his job, kicked his one penalty, and that's when New Zealand sort of started, taking control of the game, and they did what they always do and won pretty much the last play of the game.
Whenever New Zealand have a close match, sometimes, a lot of the time, there's a backlash. Like last year against France, first test was pretty close, 23-13. Then the following weekend, New Zealand trashed them 30-0. The year before that as well, against Ireland, second test, 22-19 to New Zealand. And the following week, Ireland were completely blown away, 60-0.
Record score.
Do you think
the worst ever defeat Ireland has ever?
Do you think there will be a New Zealand backlash, or will the incoming England players keep it a competitive match and a close score?
I think the fact that the All Blacks win a whole year unbeaten, and now it's every game is will this be the game where they get beaten? I guess there's way more pressure being put on the All Blacks every time they play from the New Zealand public. After a game, if Richie McCaw's interviewed or if any of the players are interviewed, they always say, it was a relief to win that game. Do you know what I mean? So judging by last week's performance, you'd think there will be a big backlash, but then the fact that there is these English players coming back, Burrell, 12 trees, people were saying, they mightn't be great, but in the Six Nations defensively they were brilliant. And
I don't think it's likely a backlash. I think it's more New Zealand will probably build on. They've had 80 minutes together, first game of the season, the cobwebs.
Yeah, exactly.
Comfortable together.
Those passes that were dropped will stick,
and they'll probably just build. Then maybe Kieran Reid will be back. He's got a big influence on the team.
But then again, remember when England destroyed New Zealand and Twickenham?
Yeah.
A year later, England came back and they were like, this is the game we want to beat. We want to absolutely destroy England here. We still have those nightmares from that game. I think Aaron Smith said that he has that jersey he wore that day in Twickenham when they got beaten up in his wall, just to remind himself that you really have to kind of check yourself before you
correct yourself.
I was going to say, England, I think 60 minutes, 65 minutes in that game, England were in it.
And it's unlikely the English would have been targeting the first game, obviously, with all the absences. So they probably could have been even targeting the third test.
Okay, finally, just what changes would you make for the second test for both teams, Cian?
Best changes, the changes that will happen are if Kieran Reid he is fit, he'll come in at number 8, and also Julian Savea. If you look to last year's Rugby Championship, they were the two players that just, if teams didn't defend those two players, you could find yourself 20 points down within 15 minutes. So they're the two players that will definitely come in my opinion. And then I would actually switch Jerome Kano into 6 and put Liam Messam on the bench.
The second match last Saturday was Australia-France, finishing up 50-23 to Australia. 7 tries in total from Australia. Folau, Ashley Cooper, Hooper, Tumua, Cummins, Beale and McCabe, and Parra scoring a try for France and them getting a penalty try. France seemed to collapse after the first 10 minutes, but it was really good to see Australia being really competitive again in the past few months.
Well, yeah, it's nice to see Australia coming back into their old form, you know. Because this time last year they were a bit of a shambles against the Lions. You know, Robbie Deans, it was his last time as head coach with Australia, and you know they're kind of going through a reformation.
There's now 10, 12,
yeah.
13.
You know, there was all these rumours like, why isn't Quade Cooper in the team? Like when the Lions were here, like that, they were like, is Israel Folau going to play? Like who? Like James Horwell, like he was dropped as their captain in the Rugby Championship. All these kind of things. And as you were saying, they've no centres, and then you also had the Curly Beale and James O'Connor problems with the alcohol related issues. So, and then obviously Ewan McKenzie came in, and obviously it takes a while. He got thrown straight into the deep end,
Straight back in.
Brought him straight back in, and then slowly you saw them kind of getting this chemistry together towards the end of the Rugby Championship, and then come the autumn internationals, they just seem to be clicking again. And
so back to the Ireland match, they great performance, and
exactly.
It's just they've had game time together, if anything, and then also like Tumua, young players like that have got experience as the games have gone on and grown in confidence.
But at the same time, the French defence last Saturday was an absolute joke. For example, Tumua's try, just on their own line, just dropping the ball.
Yeah.
You know, they need huge improvement in defence. What is Saint-Andre trying to get out of this tour? Because he's named a 30-man squad for the next year, and he's left a lot of them in France. What is the point of this tour for him?
Yeah, well, like when you saw it with the Six Nations, France were like started off well against England, then you were like, oh, here we go, France are back, and then just 2 or 3 just awful performances, and you just have to, and Saint-Andre picking players out of position, and you just wondered like, what is he doing? Especially when you have, especially the halfback partnership. That's what I just don't understand. You have Morgan Parra, who's one of like France's generals. Like he gets France ticking at times, especially in big games.
France exactly, worst, you know.
And then 10, like this Michelak, I just don't understand it. They have Remy Tallez and Tranduc, who are two, like they're quite similar 10s, but they do exactly what France need. You know, they play direct, they manage games well, they kick well, you know, they take the ball to the line. So he's left both of them at home.
They're also both good defenders, you
exactly,
know. Like
yeah.
Tranduc will put in hits. Michelak is bloody apron in front of a ball.
And like, yeah, so he's left a few of these players at home, and like this is, you think for this tour against Australia, you think France would look to form some chemistry, see like is there combinations, for example like 12 Trees and Burrell, and see can they get like some combinations like that working. But you just wouldn't know why he's left these players at home. And then you obviously saw it in the weekend. Their defence was
they
just
look unfit, unstructured.
No, sometimes just not interested. The front fives just looked like they were walking around at times. You had a lot of lone wolves going off doing their own work.
Is this the team rebelling against Saint-Andre, or is this just bad choices by the coach?
I think it's as much bad preparation, bad management, and just they're playing in the way they're told to play, which they're not given any structure to play to. So that's what it looks like, you know.
Exactly, like it's when you're out there and a team's coming at you like that is well structured and running hard lines, playing with high intensity, and you're trying to play within structure that's obviously not working. Like that's when you see these lone wolves going off doing making their big hits like Shuley.
And the tries were each time was in the middle of tight, nothing coming up, no structure, and then you just had Huget coming up, and then all that took was a passing behind and they're in. So
it's, they just, as we said, like structurally, defensively, they're all over the place. They look uninterested at times now, and then everyone always says like, "Oh, what France will show up?" Like, but It's getting to the stage where it's just like, you know what France is going to come at you, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it like you wonder at times, is Saint-Andre trying to play mind games with other teams, with some of the teams he's picked? Like, remember he had Wesley Fofana on the wing when he's like, this is going back now 2 Six Nations ago, and he's like one of the best
informed 12s at the time,
12s at the time, exactly, yeah.
Changes for next week, James. Changes to Australian and French team.
Obviously, Moore, the captain's curse, he's gone. Hooper will lead, and then Pilota now has come into hooker, and then the sub hooker Charles, he suffers from cystic fibrosis and he's playing, so that's pretty impressive. And then I don't think there's many other changes to the Australian team. France, anyone's guess. Obviously, he could decide to ship someone over from France that I've never even heard of. But
you could argue Curtly Beale in a 12, but I think he actually is the perfect player to bring on
tired legs.
Yeah, if France are getting tired around the 60-minute mark, he's the perfect player to come on. That'll create a gap, see the space in behind, put in through a rubber, set up Phillipe, that Huertas combination going on there.
For France, though, I suppose Picamoles could come back.
Yeah.
For Shuley, that was kind of a new back row experiment of back row, but anyone's guess.
Yeah, France, you wouldn't know. Like,
that's the thing, they have the players to bring. Like, they could make changes that would make a difference.
Yeah,
but
they have a squad that, with the right coaching and management, they could be a really dangerous.
On paper, whenever you look at France, that's why it's always a question which team's going to turn up, because on paper they're world class, but if you don't have the structures and world class coach or a madman.
Yeah, I think the next 2 tests with Australia are really going to tell a lot about Saint-Andre and what are the French rugby even going to do with him. You know what I mean? Like, you can only assume he's there for the World Cup because he's had a lot of poor campaigns in the past. So we'll have to see.
The final match of Saturday was Argentina-Ireland. Ireland won 29-17. Trimble, Sexton, Henley scoring for Ireland, and De La Vega and Montero scoring for Argentina. They're not first string teams for either of them. They're developing a lot of players.
I think you're definitely right with that one. Like, both teams, I think it definitely shows with Schmidt bringing in players like Ayew and Dyak especially. It's within, you still have your O'Connells, you still have Carney and stuff on tour, but it is very much to get those players caps and just get them game time. And then obviously Argentina, they're all basically the Argentinian based players. We haven't even heard of most of them. I was impressed by Montego, was it the try scorer? Montero, he seems like an impressive player, but as you say, neither full strength teams. But
yeah, for Ireland, I think in the past, I think Eddie O'Sullivan, he used to just throw all these brand new players out there and was just like, yeah, go do it, and then they'd lose and they wouldn't learn anything. Well, I think it was really good what Joe Smith did. He brought in the likes of Ayew, Dyak, Felix Jones, Darren Cave especially, but he still has Murray, Sexton at the halfbacks. He still has O'Connell there, which means there's a bit of structure still there. Exactly, best. You still have your leaders out there. You're not going out there being like, we're just. It could be quite a daunting experience if you didn't have those players there. So I think that was really smart by Joe Schmidt to do that.
Yeah, well, that was Ireland's first win in Argentina as well. James, you mentioned Ayew and Dyak. Officially Irish men now. A lot of people are talking about the residency players, non-Irish players getting residency. What's your opinion on that? Some people are for it, some people are against it. Do you think it's smart by Schmidt, or is it wrong to cap these non-Irish players?
Well, I think it's smart of Schmidt to, within the law, he may as well, he's capping these players. It means it's expanding the player base that Ireland can pick from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of, say, the likes of Michael Bent, Rodney Ayew, Robbie Dyak. Like, yeah, they're not Irish, and there's Irish players that have probably been plying their trade who should have got the opportunity, but it means the player base is expanded. Other teams are doing it. Like New Zealand are one of the biggest naysayers or critics of the whole thing.
They're quite hypocritical.
Exactly. Tonga, Samoa, Fiji,
they're taking all their players.
So,
Malachi Feketawa, he's a perfect example. It was like an interview with him recently being like, who are you going to play for New Zealand if you're picked, because he was playing well. He was in good form in Super Rugby with the Highlanders.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, are you going to play with Tonga or are you going to play with New Zealand? And he's like, no, I want to play with the best, I want to play with New Zealand. So, and with players like Bundy, Aki, all these players going up to Northern Hemisphere
with the
clubs
aim of playing as
the project players, a lot of New Zealand critics are starting to get quite angry and give out about it. Especially, I think Steve Hansen, the head coach of New Zealand, was like, "Please stop leaving the country because you have like your first tier players. But those first tier players need the second tier players to make them better." So, but I think rugby is changing, and as you said, we don't have the pool base that other nations have. So I think
definitely that the rule will change.
Maybe be longer, like maybe 5 years residency,
5-10, but in times to come when the rule does change, it means we've 3-4 extra professional, but like international standard players. So.
Yeah, like the likes of Jared Payne, it's really important. Bundy Aki, when he does come, he could be perfect. Himself and Robbie Henshaw, if they get a good partnership going up in college.
But even if they were to stay in their own country, they probably wouldn't be the players they are now. If Dyak had stayed in South Africa, he'd probably still be playing like provincial rugby or whatever. He wouldn't be playing like Heineken Cup top level. So at the same time, we have developed those players. So in a way, their professional top standard rugby playing has been made through the Irish system. But
I suppose there is a positive and negative to it. Like when Richard Strauss came, he was unbelievable for Leinster, and he was given his chance. He made his debut. He sang the Irish national anthem, and his cousin was his opposite number, like playing for South Africa. So like there is that whole element of like, are they they're not Irish, so why are they playing for Ireland? But then again, they are bred rugby wise in Ireland, so
they buy into it.
Exactly. And like as James says, like if Richard Strauss stayed back in South Africa, I doubt he would have got anywhere near the South African national team.
Brian O'Driscoll is retired. Darren Cave is the first one to take the green 13 jersey. How was his performance, and do you see him as being the first choice 13 come the November internationals?
Yeah, I think now he's been lucky with Henshaw's bad luck. It's his jersey to play himself. He can play himself into that jersey now. He's 2 matches. It's probably the first time where he's played 2 matches in succession for Ireland. He has this, he has that, and then come autumn, Henshaw might only be returning fitness and full match fitness, and he's still there to play. So I'd say it's his jersey to lose. I thought he was quite impressive. I always was a fan of Darren Cave. I think he's quite similar to O'Driscoll. He's in O'Driscoll's later days, he's not the quickest, but he has the skills and he knows, he can see the gap, and he's good on the outside break. He can drift, and he's a clever defender. So I don't think he's a bad player to fill the 13 gap, even if it's only temporary.
Yeah,
I think future long term Payne Henshaw probably, but for now I think Darren Cave is probably a good bet.
My only criticism of him is sometimes in big games for Ulster he kind of hides a bit. Like he shows all his good attributes in the, like let's say against the Zebras or the Newports.
Yeah.
When it comes up against the Claremonts or the Toulons, you know, he really goes into a shell a bit.
Yeah.
So, but that's something that, you know, with Joe Schmidt could get the best out of him and be like, don't be afraid in these big games. Like, and then, like say, if he has one good game against, like let's say in Australia or South Africa in November, he could grow in confidence and maybe have a great Six Nations campaign. And you never know. Come then, I think we're lucky in the way that we have Payne and Henshaw, and then you'll have some tasty
possibly Madigan and Fitzgerald even as well. They might get a chance at Leinster. So
changes for next weekend. Obviously, both teams are trying to blood players. Would you like to see anybody else coming on, giving a shot?
Yeah, I think, you know, earlier on we were talking about how it was smart by Schmidt to have Murray, Sexton, Paul O'Connell and Best in there.
The core of experience.
I think the back row was a little bit weak, so I think Heaslip should start. I think the back row were found. Although Robbie Dyak had an incredible game, I thought there was just that little bit of like, you know, oomph in the back row. So I think Heaslip, I'd like to see him maybe start.
Say Ruddock will get a go.
Yeah. I think there's talk of Sexton maybe has a little bit of an injury, so, you know, Madigan give him a bit of confidence because, you know, a lot of people were, well, obviously Matt O'Connor at Leinster has chosen Goppert as his first choice 10, so I'd say give Madigan a shot if he has a good game, you know, a bit of a confidence boost there. Yeah, I'd like to see maybe a change of, well, I think Rob Carney's going to come in at fullback, and I thought McFadden was quite wiry when he came on.
I think though with the whole McFadden-Zebo thing, I think Zebo's likely to create a lot more. He'll make more mistakes, but he'll create a lot more. So in the whole Schmidt ethos is don't make mistakes, so then that's obviously going to not be in his favour. But I think any day I'd probably have him over McFadden. I think McFadden's does what he does well, but
McFadden's really good. Will be good to come on at the 60, do like the hard work.
Yeah,
you know, when
Devon
players are
Taylor
tired,
will probably come back.
Yeah,
say Henderson could shift to the bench, but
even the back row, you never know. Maybe
say back row would be changes.
Maybe you might see Marmion come on, get a little more game time, because he is a player that can, with experience, can grow in confidence, get better.
That's it for Pillar and Post this week. Enjoy the rugby at the weekend, and we'll see you next Thursday as well. See you.
Bye.